Hey Charles,
Hey, brother.
I pressed the wrong button, but I think we're live. Yeah, we're live. Hi Charles, how are you?
I'm doing fine. How are you, Mel?
Uh, you know, I'm doing good. I'm just setting up my share watch party on Patsy's. Believe it or not, there's a lot of people that watch it on Patsy's page, and for some reason cannot get onto our page.
That's weird.
But aside from that, I got everything set up. Everything's rocking and rolling, and looks like we are set. We got some people on. We got a bunch of people on.
Okay.
I just trying to. I still. I see Tyson on. Tyson, check this out, man. It's a Roger Clemens, 1985 tops Roger Clemens
Graded.
PSA graded 8. It's a beautiful card. That's just Tyson will appreciate that.
Who is Roger Clemens?
Right
That's
on.
just who is Roger Clemens. Who is Roger Clemens? Yeah, Mr. Music. No more music because we stay back on Zoom
Yeah, Mr.
until
Rocket.
we can figure out what's causing the problem with the audio. Um, we're gonna stick with Zoom because we know Zoom works. If we lose connection with Zoom, then we'll go back to Restream as a backup. But anyway, Charlie, I'm sure you have been getting a lot of messages and texts and phone calls after last night's meeting. I've been reading, trying to read through all the comments. Over thousands, thousand comments, more than thousand comments, and I think a lot of people were disappointed last night. A lot of people were frustrated. But you know what? There is some good news. I heard today driving home, and I'm assuming it's true because it was on the news on the radio that try look at Uncle Charlie's shirt. It looks like a peacock mosaic card.
Yep.
That is a compliment because that card is worth a lot of money. But anyway,
This part right
and I
here,
heard that
is made out of artichokes right here. See?
I went back to my Kawhi Strong because today I had a different um, outlook, a different perspective. Not I shouldn't say different because it's always been there, but I think it was more pronounced today because of realizing and accepting the fact that we're moving forward with the opening. That no matter what the people think, it's
Hmm.
gonna happen. And so I wear my shirt Kawhi Strong because I'm on Kawhi, but I encourage Oahu strong and Maui strong and Hawaii strong and Lanai strong and Molokai strong and Niihau strong because listen, people, we've said this so many times. We're gonna have to deal with this ourselves. We're gonna have to make sure that we protect ourselves because and listen, Josh is a good friend of mine, and I don't hold anything against Josh. He's a lieutenant governor. He's part of a team that has made a decision, and they want to move forward. So, but I heard on the news that mayors, of course, Mayor Kawakami and Mayor Victorino from Maui, both of them are asking the governor to allow them to require a second test on their respective islands, which is what we talked about last night. Charlie, you asked the lieutenant governor straight up, and he said that he would support that. I hope that the governor grants these mayors, both Kawakami and Victorino, that authority. Because if we can do that here, and we can do that on Maui, or every island does their own second test. You could combine that with the bubble resort, so they can go to the resort and they can stay there until their second test results come back, and if it comes back negative, then they can go on their way. Um, so I'm hoping that the governor will allow the mayors that flexibility or that authority. I truly do because it was a talk of everywhere I went today about this one test system, and that uh, I think most people, at least the people that watch our show, that have the benefit of hearing from all the other doctors that have been on the show, um, explaining the percentages based on facts and data, that in fact, and it makes sense though, Charlie, right? It makes sense if, and we can use the lieutenant governor's scenario of testing negative and then shortly after that being infectious. And, so basically what the data says is that if you take only one test, you rely on only one test 72 hours before departure, then 70% of the infected travelers will not be caught. That's what the data says. That's not what any individual doctor is saying. That's what the data shows. And if you haven't read the article by Dr. Dara O'Carroll, it's on Civil Beat, but it's also on my page. Please go read the article. Look at the data and the facts. But anyway, having said that, the governor and his team have decided they're going to move forward. So I guess my plea to all of you is to just protect yourselves. We cannot rely on government. And I don't see that in a negative way. We got to accept it and just protect yourselves, protect your family, wear your masks, social distance, wash your hands, and we'll be okay. We'll be okay.
Well, I want to address something that came on a little while ago. Very interesting. This is to a viewer, Cynthia Ann. Yes, there was an article. The CDC says that out of 217 passengers on a plane, one infected person will infect 15 others. But we have a tendency of looking at the South Korea model. I forget the patient number, whatever his name, patient number. I forgot.
31.
31. Okay. One person infected several hundred because their tracing program is so out of this world. They were able to trace it, all the infected people that had COVID, they were able to track it back to this one person. So we can get two things out of the story. One is we know that more people can get infected. We know that. And we talked about it a lot when we had Minnie Cole. We talked about it when we had Dara O'Carroll, that it is possible. And that's why, you always hear this term of the gold standard. We look at the gold standard, and South Korea is that gold standard because they've been through it many times. The second side to this is that, and like you said, Mel, if we're not careful, basic things like if you trust someone enough to think you're not going to get infected, well, the poster child last night was the lieutenant governor because he trusted his security detail. It's okay to trust someone who you instill that trust to protect your life. That's one thing. But when the virus cannot be seen, that's a different story. So no matter how much you trust a person, if I'm by you and I wear a mask, it doesn't mean I'm being disrespectful to you or that I don't trust you. It's just that unless you can see it or I can see it, we just cannot take that chance. Now, the good thing about it was that the lieutenant governor's regiment comprised of vitamin C and vitamin D in large quantities. But remember now, he's a relatively young guy. And if we were to look at the veterans home on a Big Island, a lot of the veterans, again, we had more deaths and, condolences to the family. Would they be able to have taken a treatment to kind of get them out of that problem they were at? Probably not. So we just have to, be careful. We just have to, stay vigilant and we'll get through this. We'll get through this. It's the thing that I get upset about though is looking at the common sense approach, because I did hear the governor make a statement to a news reporter today that when the first shutdown was lifted, he said they could see a lot of relaxation taking place. So they had large gatherings. Large gatherings, and numbers started to increase. Well, you didn't address the businesses. Were those increased number due to businesses? And I think I said it last night with the lieutenant governor about the surge testing. We need to be target specific. If we know that there's a hotspot, target that area, move in right away. Don't wait. So that's why I think this go around why the two test system is good is because it will help the counties and the state, because I do not have that much faith in the contact tracing yet, because we haven't heard anything about it. We haven't, you know, we saw the numbers, and what was the numbers he mentioned last night that would trigger a third shutdown? He said
70.
7 per 100,000, right?
Yeah, so for Oahu would be 70 cases.
Well, guess what? The other day there was at what, 139, one.
Yesterday
Yeah,
was 160. Yesterday was 160.
yeah. So they would be triggering, based on that statement, they'll be triggering a shutdown already. So that's why, folks, we bring the information to you, we let it fly, and you folks can think one way or the other. I mean, I know what we all heard, so it's just one of those things. Just one of those things.
Yeah, there were a couple of questions about Korea and their process. Do they do a two-test system? Korea, I got to tell you, and it's really hard to explain in a couple of minutes, but the difference between Korea and America is that Korea, they have a complete screening program at the airport when you arrive, and if you have symptoms, you get taken to a facility. If you don't have symptoms, you test positive, you get taken to a quarantine place, you get monitored, you get tracked, you get tested, obviously. If your test comes positive, they pick you up from wherever you're at and they take you to a facility. That's the gold standard. That's the gold standard. The testing is done at the airport of when you arrive. It's not this take them from where you came from.
But they also provide a second. They also provide a second test too.
Yeah, if you, yes, exactly. And you don't get released until you test negative. I mean,
Yep.
so it's night and day. And it bothers me when I hear comments like, we don't have enough tests. That's crap. That's bull crap. We've heard it from Dr. T. We've heard it from Dr. Miskovich. We've heard it from the doctors. The tests are available. And we know that money is in the issue because the legislature appropriated the funds, the millions of dollars, to the airport budget, not the transportation, to the airport specifically for testing. So I don't buy it. I hate when people use money as an excuse. That should be no excuse. It just should be no excuse. So anyway,
Yes.
there was one more question that I saw that I want to cover. It'll probably come to me later. Tonight we have Gary Moore. He's the managing director of Timbers Resort. I know based on comments, a lot of people are hesitant about the bubble. The bottom line is this: it's the bubble creates a safer environment because you keep all the guests in one location. Now, again, the main concern, and we're going to hear it tonight from Gary. We don't know the answer. We're going to ask him. How do we make sure that our employees are safe? How do we make sure our local residents that are working in this bubble environment will be safe? And are the employees comfortable going back to work? I don't know.
Can I make this one a statement? A lot of people are talking about, if we open up, we're going to have all these crowds again. Well, folks, if I know I'm going to the mall to pick up one item and not loiter around, and I see a large crowd, common sense is going to dictate I'm going to avoid that crowd. Just because you have a large crowd, you shouldn't be worried, because you can control your actions. And that's what we're saying tonight. Control your actions. And I put out a post today, and I said, I'm going to wear my mask for my safety. And if you insist on coming into my space after I tell you, please, stay away, you don't have a mask on, and you decide to come into my space, then I hope you understand that if you get pushed to the side, because I want to be as safe as possible. At my age and my wife's age, we don't need to be dealing with this virus. But again, we can control what we can. So if you go to a market and there's a ton load of people, you either make sure that you stay away from a lot of them until it's your turn to go up to the cash register, or you just leave and come back another time. That's what I'm going to do. You have control over that. It doesn't mean you have to stay there and get bunched in with the rest of the gang. You don't have to do that. Okay? So that's what we're talking about, safety. Safety first. You can recognize the danger, like a fire. Doesn't mean you go towards the fire. I know sometimes we hear gunshots, we run over to see where they're coming from. That's the wrong thing to do. You run away. You go the opposite way. You have the ability to do that. And all we're saying is use that ability. Okay? Use that ability. Keep yourself safe.
No different than if you know get sharks in the water at the beach you're at. You're not going in the water. You remember, Charlie, months ago, months and months. We're going to be doing this. It's going to be a year pretty soon. And we've said it before. Just assume that everyone has the virus, and then you make your decision of what you want to do. If you assume, if you walk into a mall or if you walk into the store, or if you go to visit a friend or a family member, and you see a bunch of people in a garage, and you knew that they all had the virus, would you still go in? Right? We got to assume that everybody has the virus, and then nobody gonna get the virus. That's the bottom line, because we're not going to stop. We're not going to stop this from happening. It's going to happen, so we got to protect ourselves. And I thought we had a shot. I really did, and I was very disappointed when the governor made the announcement about the one test. I was very disappointed, and because we've been led to believe all along that they were really considering that multi-test system. So yeah, I'm frustrated and a little angry, but what we're going to do? So we're going to bring on the experts. That's what we're going to do. We're going to bring on Dr. Alderetti. Will be on next week, Wednesday. He worked on the study. He was one of the doctors. He's a virologist. So who do you believe? You believe a virologist? Of course. And then we'll have Dr. O'Carroll hopefully on Sunday. We may have to do a special Sunday edition of our show if Dr. O'Carroll can make it. Because next week we have the candidate profile. So Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, we'll have the council candidates on like we did for the primary election. So we're going to try and bring the experts on like we're doing tonight with Gary Moore. And so go ahead and share this. We forgot to ask you guys to please share this right now so we can get it out. We want to understand the bubble theory. We've read about it. We've heard about it. But, we'll hear exactly how something like this will work. And we'll get that. Gary is in the way.
Brother,
so I'm sorry.
Brother, just you said something real interesting. You said about the shark, right? If you know where's a shark, you stay away, right? Apparently, not the visitors down at Kaimana Beach the other day.
Yeah,
it was on the news. They had a big school of fish, and there were two white tips, no more than 10 feet offshore, and they showed that bugger swimming by, and here's Mr. and Mrs. Tourist right on the other side in the water, floating on their floater, watching the shark go by. Now, what if the shark went turned towards them? That's why hard to feel sorry for that kind of people.
not gonna say nothing. When I go to the mainland, I so afraid of snakes. If somebody tell me might have snakes, I'm not going anywhere near that area. Anyway, Gary's in. Well, centipedes too. Centipede. Oh, I'm more afraid of a centipede than a shark. Believe it or not. Oh, there's Gary.
There he is.
And I love the background, man. I love the background. Can you hear us, Gary?
I can hear you loud and clear.
All right, we can hear you. That's Charlie up there, the Hawaiian.
How you doing,
Charlie?
Of course, I'm Mel with my Hawaii Strong shirt. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Gary Moore, managing director. Not managing director. What the heck is your title? Some kind of manager.
I question that every day, but that's what they call me, managing director.
He's like the boss. He's like the big shot up there at Timbers, and I need to make a disclosure up front that or disclaimer, whatever you want to call it. I used to work for Timbers. I was a night auditor, so I didn't really get to see Gary as much. But I love the place. I love Timbers. I know we got some Timbers employees on tonight, by the way. So that's kind of exciting for me. We don't get to see them anymore. But I did want to say that I love Timbers. I will say this, that when I went to work for Timbers, I was very impressed with the way Timbers, their approach to developing that resort on Kauai was unique. And trust me, I've been on a council for a long time. I've spoken to many developers, and Gary, I was going to say it. When they first came to Kauai, I got to meet with some of the big shots from the mainland corporation of Timbers, and they had made all these promises. And And I told him the one thing that people of Kauai don't like is when you take access away. And I was very, very happy when I actually started working for Timbers. The first several weeks, we were prior to opening, we all worked during the day, and we got to meet all of the key people. And one of the things that they're very adamant about is the environment. They're very, very environment friendly. They got their own farm. If you haven't seen it, it's amazing. Their food comes from their own farm, and they were very adamant about making sure the access would remain for the local people, and in fact enhanced a lot of the accesses for the local residents, so we can continue to walk and bike and do everything that we want up there. So I just wanted to get that off. I'm not sucking up, Gary, because you're not my boss anymore. I'm just saying that, hey, these guys, they walk the walk, they walk the talk, and they're good. So thank you very much. Appreciate you coming on, Gary.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. And nice to meet you virtually, Charlie.
Same here, sir. Same here.
Tonight, we're going to talk about the bubble. We're going to get to that at some point, but what we want to hear, Gary, is maybe if you can take us down the road of right before COVID hit, you know, what Timbers was doing, and then boom, the shutdown happens. How did Timbers just take us down that road, take us down that journey with you as
Yeah.
what happened?
Yeah, I would imagine, you know, a lot of folks that, you know, have, you know, large number of employees went through, you know, a similar process and emotions and feelings. But yeah, I remember it really well. You know, we sort of saw that, you know, this was coming because, you know, of course it started on the East Coast. We have resorts on the East Coast. And so we kind of saw that this was coming, and then it was right in the middle of March. And, you know, the stay-at-home order had just been put in place. We had a pretty big rain, had some flooding in Kapa'a that weekend. And it was a dark day because, you know, as we're going through everything, coming to the realization that, you know, we're going to have to furlough the majority of our employees. And, you know, just for me personally, you know, the first emotions are, you know, it's just, you know, none of these people did anything wrong. They're all great people, you know, hardworking family people. And, you know, it was tough. It was really, really tough. And, you know, as we started digging in and trying to figure out, okay, you know, what are we going to do? How do we do this? Fortunately, federal and state government stepped up, and we were able to see that, you know, many of our employees were going to be, you know, compensated at least at the level, if not more, of their wages. So that took, you know, a little pressure, but also knowing, hey, okay, this is going to be a temporary thing. So first and foremost, you know, what we did is, you know, we made a decision that we would keep our managers on. Because we knew that it was going to be a new world. We didn't know how, we didn't know, you know, what we were going to do. We just knew that we were going to be living in a new world. And as more and more information started coming out, you know, as we worked our way through May into June, you know, our general manager, Eric Kuki, and his team, you know, we rewrote the book, rewrote all of our standard operating procedures, how we're going to do all these things, not knowing exactly when we were going to open, but we knew we wanted to reopen as soon as we possibly could. And as soon as the Inter Island was announced, we said, okay, this is our opportunity. We're not going to be getting the rates that we normally get. We're not going to be, you know, being able to support, you know, huge levels of cost, but we were able to bring back about half of our employees. And that was, you know, that was a decision that we had to present and get approved, you know, with our ownership and investors. Look, I mean, I think the easy thing to do from a pure business financial standpoint would be just close, right, and stay closed, because you know what your monthly carry is going to be in that case. But we really wanted to work hard to do that. And fortunately, you know, thanks to, you know, all the great folks of Kauai and the other islands, you know, it was very successful. We did welcome a lot of Hawaii in, and folks were able to experience a fantastic Kama'aina a program that we put together. So, that was fantastic. And so we did have, prior to opening, we had most of our staff back 2 to 3 weeks before, going through all the training procedures, of course, getting all the sanitation and all those types of things. And then, something that we all also today, every day, I was talking about it with our management staff yesterday. We want to ensure that all of our employees, every single employee, everyone's empowered. We all should be empowered. We should all be nice and kind to each other. We're all empowered. If there's too many people in a group, if they're not wearing a face mask, these are the things that we can all do. You guys were talking about it earlier. It's an easy thing to do. It's not what we're accustomed to. Wear your mask. We can't hug, we can't shake hands, but you have to do those things. So that was, and we had a very successful July, getting our team accustomed to these new procedures, and then of course Inter Island shut down. I think it was the 11th or 12th of August, and we've continued to stay open and welcome a lot of great Kauai Kama'aina to the property. But it was getting challenging. I will definitely say that. So I was very, very happy. I was on a little getaway, and when I came back, I saw that the county had looked at doing this resort bubble, and we said, okay, this is a chance to continue on, to keep our employees on, and to start to bring back the economy, but we have to do it as smart and as safely as we possibly can.
So as the bubble, I think as we understand it, the bubble basically would allow, and I remember our mayor talking about this a couple of months ago. I remember, and I can't remember where I heard it. I may have spoken to him personally, but I remember him talking about a possibility of having these resorts that would have areas basically cordoned off, where these visitors that are on quarantine can stay. They don't have to stay in their rooms. They can go out and utilize some of the amenities on the property. And I'm not talking about Timbers right now. I'm just talking in general. And these areas would be pretty much isolated, and so they could still enjoy the property and not be able to leave the property. They would be on quarantine, but they would be quarantining in an area much larger than their room. And so I'm assuming that's what you heard. That's what the plan is.
Mm-hmm. That's correct. Yeah. So we've submitted application for that, and I think we're getting pretty close to having the last pieces together for it. But basically, we lay out all of our operating procedures, how we will receive the guests, and sort of the rules of the road. So there's many folks probably seen there's a watch, a bracelet that tracks you. So there's a zone, a waypoint zone around the resort that would be triggered. But the most important thing though is the communication to the incoming guests. So we also had made the decision to require any of our owners or guests coming in to get a test, produce a negative test 72 hours. We all know that's still no guarantee, because if getting on a plane and travel, but at least if you test positive, you're not going to show up. And then 7 days, for the first 7 days, temperature checks for those folks. But the communication to the owners and the guests coming in, that, hey, we're opening under this enhanced movement quarantine, and here are the rules. And it's very important that you adhere to the rules. And we'll actually have an agreement that all of our guests will sign, saying, hey, yep, we agree to all of these things. But we've found, I've found in my experience, the majority of people, not all people, but the majority of people You lay out what the rules of the road are, and people comply. So we're excited for the opportunity. Of course, as the governor announced on Wednesday, right, the October 15th date. So for right now, the resort bubble would be a limited amount of time. However, hopefully, we complete our plan. Hopefully, we get approved with our plan, and we put it in a drawer and shut it, and we never need to pull it out again. That's the goal. However, if there are, outbreaks and shutdowns are required again, hopefully that will allow us to, continue to allow people to come back and keep employees on staff.
The bubble concept. So I guess it's really important to have like ambassadors on the property that will be walking around, making sure, it's almost like a plainclothes cop, just making sure that, you want to share the aloha, but you want to share the safety message as well. Because in order for the bubble to work, it has to be that way. Are the employees themselves already trained, ready to go, or are you folks venturing into the training aspect of how to deal with COVID? Should somebody start spiking a temp? Should somebody start showing symptoms? I mean, do you have locations at the resort if they're staying in their room that now you may have to isolate, or is there a different approach where the person may be removed from the property and taken to an isolation location? How is that working with you folks?
Yeah, so to the first part of the question, yes, our team is trained up with all the new procedures. As I mentioned, we started operating on July 1st, and of course need to execute those procedures now, even today, with only the Kauai Kamahaina coming in. But yes, as it relates to if there is a positive case, or if someone is experiencing symptoms, yes, we have the way the property, it's fairly small. There's 47 residences, so we have that structured so that, hey, you get that, okay, you stay in your residence, you don't leave your residence. If you need things, our staff will bring you towels, sheets, food, all those types of things. And then hopefully they can recover there without having to go to medical facilities.
Are you folks prepared, or did your training include staff taking like a brief contact tracing course? So in case somebody does show symptoms, they leave them in the room, you might want to check, well, they may have gone to the pool, they may have come in contact with somebody else at the pool, that kind of stuff. Are your staff trained in that procedure as well?
Yes, definitely management. And we reopened our Hualani's restaurant. It's open on Fridays and Saturdays, so we do have the contact tracing measures in place there, and we'll continue those, so that if there should be someone positive, we have all that information. We have all the information of folks that are coming through the property.
Okay, perfect.
Gary, first of all, when the mayor first talked about the bubble and it made the news, and I remember reading that part of the requirement was that the employees would be required to stay on property. Is that still part of the requirement for the bubble? Do you know?
No.
Okay, so the employees will be going home.
Correct.
Okay. And the bubble, how big is the bubble size? What do you envision the bubble being as far as Timbers is concerned? I know your property is huge.
Yeah.
Where would the bubble, where will that geofences be where they couldn't go out?
It's roughly about 350 acres of property, out around, I know you're familiar with Mel, of course, out around the Timbers Kauai, the golf course, and the north part of the property out towards the airport runways.
Okay, so they would be able to roam freely on all those areas, the golf course, the walking paths, all of that they would have access to
Mhm.
while on quarantine.
Right.
Okay, how's about the tracking capabilities now? We heard the mayor talk about this, the bracelet or whatever they want to call it. Uh,
Mhm.
would that be something that would be issued out to the guests once this starts? And who monitors that? Will you folks have access to that, the monitoring as well? And I'm pretty sure there's a fee attached to it. Will it be rolled into the resort fee so it covers the cost that way, or is it a separate tax that you may tack on to the room charges? How does that work?
Yeah, that's exactly right, Joe. That'd be part of the resort fee. It'll be part of the rate. We do have folks that own property, so we have owners come out. They will pay $80, and so yeah. So we had the testing equipment out. I think it was last week, and ran did a test with the bracelets and how all of that works. So yeah, on arrival, all the guests they'll have received the agreement for our agreement between the guest and our property. For here's the here's all of the rules of the resort bubble, and sign this. They get their bracelet on their arms, and then we have our security team will have the monitoring systems that's triggered, if they go over the line. And actually, so where we put the geo fence around the roughly 350 acres, we'll actually pull that the map we give to our owners and guests. That map will be pulled in, so hopefully we avoid them inadvertently, just barely going over the line. So we wanted to do that to also for our team and our monitoring to eliminate any triggers by accident.
So one last question about the bracelet itself. From what you've experienced since doing a test run with it, does it monitor by the second, or like some systems, because it'll start to ping when it's set to ping at a certain rate. Now I'm pretty sure if you had the thing pinging at like every second of the day, you probably that bracelet itself, what if it has a battery in it, will probably run out, right? So do you know what the rate? Because then I'm sure that if somebody inadvertently, they probably can get past the fencing, but by the time it kicks in, I think for security to run over and says, "Hey, you kind of strayed too far," or something of that matter. Do you know what the rate is set to on these things?
I don't know the exact specification of the time, but from what I've understood, it's yeah. I mean, if you could veer 300 400 yards out before the
Triggers.
system notified you.
Okay.
So if you're trying to make a break for it, better be really fast.
Okay.
So you've had people quarantining. In fact, you're quarantining right now, right? Or you
I
done?
am. Yeah, it looks
Yeah.
like I'm in the pool, but I'm actually.
Have you folks experienced any problems with guests that were on quarantine that tried to break quarantine? Did you have any issues since you opened?
No issues at all. Yeah, I think we've had roughly maybe 8 or 10 folks that have come out and quarantined, and they again that upfront communication. It's like we always say in our organization, there's no such thing as over communication, and some of them it's like, okay, cool, I got it. I understand the rules. I understand I can't leave. So we've had no issues at all.
If this bubble is or this concept is deployed, uh, say for some reason the October 15th looks like we don't know what to think with the with the state, but say if it is deployed, there's an assumption that 14-day quarantine. So really there shouldn't be any rental cars at your location. Will they be brought in by shuttle? And would taxis be allowed to come by? Because those are all different countermeasures, if you want to call it that, for someone to leave. Would all those be monitored as well?
Yes, yeah, we will have our own shuttle, with, of course, our Bell staff will be equipped with PPE. We'll have the negative COVID test results from those guests. It'll be, single, family members or people who are traveling together. Of course, we're not going to intermix. But look, we don't anticipate, if for whatever reason the October 15th date doesn't happen, we don't anticipate, the floodgates are going to open. I think it's important to, for us, we see it as an opportunity to start to learn how to live with the disease, right? And start to bring our economy back. Nothing that anybody is going to can do or say is going to replace being smart and diligent, and making sure that we're empowered. We're all empowered. Every staff member, every manager are empowered to have those direct discussions, if anyone is not, including our own team or myself. So that's our I believe the most important thing that we can all do is to protect ourselves and protect each other. And if we do that, the data shows that the spread is severely reduced. If you just follow these measures, right? You get up, get ready to go to work, you get in your car, you put your seatbelt on, you don't look twice, you look 4 times, twice both ways before you pull out and drive the speed limit or a little bit under it. So we all have to be diligent through all of this.
Okay.
With Timbers is a little different than a traditional hotel. You got, it's like a residence. You got the washer and the dryer and all of that. Everything is inside. Now, has your the cleaning system, your for the maid service, the housekeepers, has it changed since COVID as far as how that is handled? I know we were talking, Charlie and I, in fact, several months ago, we were talking to our friend Marianne down in Poipu, and my gosh, the change in how they handle the housekeeping was very significant, just because of the, obviously, the protecting the employee. Has that changed at all at Timbers since COVID started?
Absolutely. Yeah, it changed immensely. Yeah, all the standard operating procedures for how to clean the rooms, when to clean the rooms, all of that's changed. So there's no daily cleans for anyone in quarantine and anyone in a that would be in the resort bubble as well. There's no daily, there's no cleaning, at all during that period of time. They need sheets or towels, we'll drop them off at the front door. Once folks have passed the 14-day quarantine, then cleaning can be scheduled, but not with the party and the residents. And of course, all the PPE, all of the service, it's definitely increasing the time, understandably. Right, all the surfaces, all the floors, everything has to be, clean top to bottom, with all the proper, FDA, CDC recommended cleaning products. Of course, the hand sanitization centers, all of those. So all of those measures, were put in place effective July 1st when we opened for the Inter Island.
How were you surprised when the governor came out and I call it the bubble bursting? That's what I call it, the bubble bursting. I mean, it seemed like the bubble was announced and it looked like we were heading towards the bubble project, and then the governor comes out and says, we're just going to have them test once and then they don't need to quarantine. So there goes your bubble.
Yeah.
Now, there will be people that refuse a test and they will be subject to quarantine. But that kind of, it's going to be interesting. How can the two different processes coexist? I guess once October 15th comes around, there really is no need for the bubble.
Yeah, and hopefully it won't have to be brought back. But yeah, I was a little surprised. You know, I'm excited for the opportunity, but it sounds from what I've read and what I've heard, it sounds like, you know, there's some more details to be sorted through. I know you guys were talking about that earlier with the initial test, but what about, you know, the follow-up test? I was actually in Alaska for 3 weeks, and they have the pre-testing program. So I got my pre-test. I went in. It was a very organized entry process. Very, you know, you have all your documents together. And after I went through that, then they asked me, okay, so when can you test again? And I was actually going out into the bush, into the wilderness. So, you know, they said, okay, well, just don't go out and you know, go into the wilderness. So I did that. But, you know, it was a very fluid process. And from what I understand, you know, Alaska has done, you know, a pretty good job of containing it. You know, Anchorage, of course, being the hub, had a few outbreaks. So, you know, there's going to be more outbreaks. You know, there's going to be more cases, I should say. Hopefully, there's not mass outbreaks. So, you know, that's where I think we have to really all be diligent. So it'll be interesting to see, you know, what transpires here over the next, you know, week or so as we approach this October 15th date. But yeah, if you're sitting on the mainland right now and you're wanting to come to Kauai, most people are just going to wait, right, until the 15th, and they can come in.
Hey, Gary, I got a real quick follow up on Alaska. Had you not been going to the bush, had you been going to Anchorage or to the city, to the top, what would the process be any different?
Yes, they were requesting me to come take another test, you know, within the next like 2 or 3 days. And I explained where we were going, and we had some, you know, paperwork with what we were doing and where we were going, and okay, you know, let us go.
You know, that's one of the things that Mel and I have been discussing, because some of these plans have been discussed before with some doctors here on the committee. So we know, I mean, I asked the Lieutenant Governor straight up last night, you know, based on what's happening now, because everything that's happening now is his plan. The Lieutenant Governor is in charge. So I said, would you be opposed if the counties just took a little bit more precaution and required a second test? He said, not at all. So, you know, making it so basically my understanding, and Mel, you can share more what you heard today. You know, they're looking at maybe 2 counties going in that direction just to protect its citizens of each area. Because this is the part that really gets me, though. I asked a simple question. What would cause a third shutdown? What is the triggers? You know, we always talk about the triggers. Nobody can give you an answer. Well, he said the ratio is 7 per 100,000. So Honolulu being 1 million would be 70. Right now, yesterday, when we had the discussion, we're already over 160. So in theory, if that's the case, we should be staying shut down and not opening up. So that's why, and the flip side to it is, you know, we're not looking at the area where a lot of these infections happening. Like if an infection doesn't happen in your hotel, or if the studies show through contact tracing, none of the hotels contribute to a spike in numbers on Kauai, then I personally think hotels shouldn't be shut down. Plain and simple. We should target the areas that's like, you know, if you're out at Hole Holly and you got a big cluster out there, yeah, target that area. Or if you're at Kaumano Shopping Center on like Maui, you have the Kaumano Kukui Grove, you know, big cluster there, yeah, target those areas. But to throw a blanket shutdown is, I think that's what businesses like yours and smaller businesses, that's why I think they got hurt this go around.
Yes, I agree with you, Charlie, on that completely. You know, speaking for myself, not for Okawala and Timbers. You know, and I think if you look at, and I'm no expert, that's for sure, but if you look at how communities have been, because you know, of course, there's not very many islands in the U.S. Most people have been able to move. But when you look at communities that have been managing it in the way, exactly the way that you're talking about, it does. For example, when I got into Anchorage, Anchorage was actually on lockdown, right? So the restaurants and everything were closed, but then flew out to, you know, another smaller town, and there were no COVID cases there. So yes, everyone wear their masks and do all the things you're supposed to do, but you know, restaurants were open, the Airbnbs were open, all those types of things. That, to your earlier point, that requires, you know, really diligent contact tracing, I believe, and really, you know, nipping it in the bud as soon as it starts to grow and you can identify it. But yeah, I mean, that's, you know, that's my biggest fear for the great island of Kauai is, you know, all the great restaurants, all the great shops that, you know, are individual, privately owned, and you know, how do they, that makes up a big character, a big part of the character of Kauai, I believe. You know, how are they going to make it? You know, we have to find some way. And you know, even with the resort bubble, this is something that we hadn't implemented, but was something that we were talking about. It's something that we do on occasion anyway. Is if the vendors are comfortable doing it, how can we bring, you know, folks in some type of a pop-up situation, you know, where, you know, whether it's you know, food trucks or retail, those types of things, you know, to help, you know, support that. You know, every Friday and Saturday we have local musicians there at Hualani's, you know, playing. So, you know, we just got to figure out how to help each other out here.
That's what it boils down to. I mean, you know, it, bubble or not, I mean, the bottom line is, you know, we've been blessed on Kauai because we have had the low numbers. So our restaurants really haven't been affected. They're operating, in fact, today. And, you know, my wife and I, and we try to support the local, the small businesses when we go get our lunch, food. And today I went to Lavaya's fish market at the industrial, brand new business. They were pumping today during lunch. And, you know, they got all the little dots on the floor. You stay your distance. Everybody had a mask on. All the employees had a mask on. We can do this if we be safe. And it's, you know, Oahu, you had all these people jumping off a rock. You had all these people at funerals, and knowing that the virus is still active and they're still going out and they're still participating in these activities that allow this virus to transfer. You know, we are in a good spot right here, and we gotta make sure we don't lose this spot. Make sure that we don't mess up, because that's when the Honolulu, those businesses are dying.
Yeah.
The businesses in Honolulu are dying, and you know, that's a whole nother discussion of that mayor up there. He's a little different. You know, he shuts everybody down, like Charlie was saying. You just shut them all down. I don't even make you feel better when you go sleep at night thinking you're helping the cause, but you're not. You're hurting more people. But we can take care and we can support our local economy here if we keep the numbers down, so we don't have to have a shutdown.
Right.
A lot of people are asking about on the comments. I'm not sure if you have your Facebook on or checking comments, but there's been a lot of questions about allowing the public now with your bubble being expanded to 350 acres. Your entire property is a lot larger than that, right?
Yeah, it's about 450 acres all in.
Yeah, so that section of bubble, will the general public be allowed to utilize the walkways, the bikeways during the bubble?
Absolutely, absolutely, they will. Of course, you know, some folks may elect not to, but yeah, I mean that's as you were mentioning. I mean, I appreciate the kind words, but part of you know what we do and who we are is it's very much a part of our ethos of Timbers Resorts. Anywhere that we are is that you know it's a long-term long-term relationship. You know, we want to very much be part of the family. So that was important for us to have the trails and of course our restaurant that's open to the public as well. And so yeah, there absolutely is there. And actually we were talking earlier this week that we want to make sure, and I appreciate all those comments, and I appreciate you bringing the question, Mel, because we were talking, hey, we need to make sure that we get this message out that yes, we're going to be part of this, but you're welcome. Please come and you know wear your mask, or you know make sure there's no one around if you're out there running or riding a bike. And we definitely want to encourage that and do it safely. And you know there was a lot of people, a lot more people than pre-COVID, which was great to see. You know, families out enjoying the trails. You know, there's tremendous wildlife, tremendous you know bird. We've got a bird habitat there with 5 endangered bird species, and it's really cool. You know, it's really cool property to walk around. So hopefully the community will feel safe and feel safe with us. But yeah, we wanted to get that message out, and we're looking at doing something in the Garden Isle as well to you know make sure the public knows what we're up to, and they're welcome and help us all stay safe together.
You know, the because of this concept, it sort of like puts you on the map, even though it didn't start. And it just based on what you said earlier, it appears that you have taken as much caution as possible from an employer standpoint with the safety features that's all built in. But this is directed towards your employees. You know, we in our discussion with the lieutenant governor last night, it was very easy to have a negative result, but that he took an hour ride and was basically infected by a security team. And it was discovered later that, you know, when they do that ride, they're not wearing a mask. So if are your employees all trained to, at the slightest sign of anything, to raise the flag, and then a call will be made, no, you don't come in, you go get tested? Or is testing an ongoing regimen with your company, that you test your employees, or what's being done?
Yeah, we haven't had you know ongoing testing. We're certainly open to that. Absolutely. You know, I would think it should. You know, folks, I don't know that you can require people. That comes into you know employee rights. So that's a HR question, but certainly folks should have that availability. And again, I'm not an expert on it, but everything I'm reading and everything I'm hearing, I mean, the quantity of tests continue to increase. You know, they're producing all these tests, and there's some tests that are more reliable and some tests that aren't, and obviously we want the ones that are the most reliable. But absolutely, but you know, every morning when employees come in, temp checks. Of course, there's you know the continued reminders. Hey, if you don't feel well, you know, don't come in, and also making sure that they're all you know responsible with each other, because yeah, okay, you know you've got a mask on, you got a mask on out at the bell staff, or you know if you're you know housekeeping for 6, 7, 8 hours, you know at some point you might need to go you know out onto the property and take your mask off and just you know breathe and relax a little bit. So that's important, you know, not ever to let your guard down when you're, you know, 4 or 5 hours in, and you know you're hanging out with you know your friends and coworkers, and you get a little too relaxed. But from everything that I know, everyone, all of the employees have been very receptive and, have really put a strong focus on being diligent and exercising, care through all of those. But look, there's nothing that any of us can do to guarantee that there won't be new cases. So it's really important for all of us in the community and certainly the resorts to absolutely keep the highest level of diligence possible in every area. One of the other things between check-in, check-out, we have 24-hour rest periods. So that gives time after folks are in for 14 days that they've left, or they're going out, they would like their room cleaned. We have a rest period for 24 hours, and then our team would clean that and before a new arrival would come in. And that was one of the other cleaning areas that we implemented for procedures. So that's ongoing every single day. Are those reminders to each other? But again, it's all of our responsibilities, and the resort, the hospitality industry, we have to make this work. We have to do everything we can. We cannot afford another shutdown. We can, and hopefully it may happen, and we'll have to deal with it if it does. But if we all do our part, hopefully we will not. That's 6 months now. It's and now the deliberation and the in the White House and the Senate with future stimulus packages. It's become very politicized. So it's like, hey, when the additional unemployment runs out, what are we going to do then? That's when real hardship is going to set in. So we're here to do our part in every possible way that we can. We're open door figuratively in today's environment, but we have open door policy with our HR, with all of our management. Any concerns that any of the employees have, we address them. We address them, as a team, and handle them, each one of them. And we've learned a lot from our employees as well. From various, cleaning methodologies, suggestions that our employees bring. Because look, our employees are our best resource for that. They're the ones executing their job every day, not me. Not our general manager, although he's in the rooms cleaning too. So we welcome that, and I would expect and hope that all of the resorts on Hawaii and throughout Hawaii do the same, because that's very important.
One of, I think, talking about the testing component, I think one of the information I'm getting from, and a lot of the hotels here in Hawaii are unionized, but one of the things that they're demanding is that the employees get tested regularly, because I think testing is critical in every industry and everywhere, to identify possible the virus. So I would ask that you look into that and just, we got experts that come on our show frequently, Dr. Miskovich, Dr. Trubkovsky from Doctors of Waikiki, a lot of resources out there as to how, we can at least provide. See, Kauai is unlike the other islands. We don't have locations where people can drive up and get a test, like Honolulu does. The West Side Clinic, I know the West Side Pharmacy, they were part of the surge testing, but that's done now. There's no more surge testing. So there's no place on Kauai, and we're at a disadvantage. On Oahu, they have drive-up clinics all the time. So that would be something I would hope that all the hotels, remember, October 15th it's going to be open.
Yeah.
These guys are going to take a test, and they're going to come to Hawaii, and they're going to come to Kauai, and there will be no quarantine. And I think we talked about it before you came on, is that, you know, we tried our best to have that 2-test regimen put in, and in fact, we thought we were getting success, but it didn't work. We are not going to change that, so we got to take it upon ourselves to be safe. But employers, I think, especially if you're dealing with these people face to face, I don't know what Dr. Tripkovsky, not Dr. Tripkovsky, but I think you get these tests $20-25 a piece. You know, and I know a lot of people asking, who's going to pay for the cow? Who's going to pay? The visitor, the traveler, is responsible for all the costs of quarantine, and that's just the way the law is written. And so it's not CARES money that's going to pay Timbers or any bubble hotel to take care of these costs. That the guest will pay. But so somehow, I guess, if the cost can be absorbed by the visitor to cover the test for these employees, I think that would be. You can't force them, but I think if I'm an employee, I want to get tested every week, man, just to make sure some runaway virus isn't around, you know, because the statistics will tell you, if we go on a 1-test system, you know, we're looking at 70% of positives slipping past. And that's where I'm a little concerned.
Mhm.
The bubble keeps them in one place, in one area that they cannot leave, and they electronically monitored. Right now, we statewide, the enforcement of quarantine breakers, very small.
Right.
We got more people running around that are on quarantine statewide that are they just run around unchecked. And at least the bubble puts a monitor on them. And, you know, I know a lot of people, they don't support the bubble. I'm reading the comments, and they're not supporting the bubble at all. But I think we try to make every situation as safe as possible. As safe as possible. And to me, if the governor was to do a second test, that would be doing what is best, I think. And I'm hoping Derek gets the okay to require that second test.
Yeah.
That would, I think, help a lot and really prevent the opportunities for that virus to spread on Kauai.
Yeah, certainly agree. Both with that and also, you know, with the employees. And, you know, I'm not sure how many properties are, you know, going to reopen on October 15th or November 1st, but, you know, it's everyone's, I'm sure, planning that process. So we would be, you know, excited to figure out a program where, you know, again, I don't know what the availability of testing, or, you know, where would the employees go? How is it disseminated? Is it, you know, is there health officials coming to our property, you know, once a week, or is there a place where the employees go? You know, the details of that, how that would be worked out, but that's something that we surely, you know, support, absolutely. And hey, it's a smart thing to do. I mean, I was watching interview with Coach Saban, where Tua played at the University of Alabama. They're testing their players every single day right now. Now that's a smaller group of people, but, you know, hey, there's tests out there, you know, and there's other organizations doing that, you know, with their employees. So we got to get the tests here and figure out as an efficient and safe way for distribution as possible. Because look, we're going to be living with this. I hope I'm wrong. I would love nothing more than to be wrong, but I think we're going to be living with this well into 2021. You know, yeah, supposedly vaccines are coming, but, you know, we'll see. We'll see how effective they are and how quickly they're produced. But you know, it seems to me like we're going to be well into 2021 and possibly longer to live with this disease. So we have to find a way. We have to find a way to get through it.
I agree, and I think we got to do it in a safe way. And the last thing we need is a third shutdown, man. That I forget what guest told us months ago that that would just be deflating, demoralizing. I think it was the word. And I tried to explain that to the lieutenant governor last night that you know we just um, cannot shut down for a third time. We've got to be very everything we do is got to be very safe, and we can. We're gonna have to coexist with this thing as much as I'm with you, Gary. I hope I'm wrong, but
Yeah,
this isn't gonna go away.
yeah.
Isn't gonna go away.
You know, I did want to say that, you know, I've been reading some of the comments. You know, folks, I'll be straight up with you folks. You know, the safest thing that could happen is like what South Korea does. Visitors come, they get taken straight to a facility. No ifs, ands, or buts. You do your quarantine there. But we can't do that here. So the next best thing is this bubble that I know some of you don't like. I know some of you, just by reading what you're writing, you wish they don't come at all. Well, then, you know, where are you going to get a new infusion of cash flow? I'm not saying, you know, I'm just saying we just got to be safe about it. That's the bottom line. However you do it, I mean, and like Mel said, we go into a third shutdown. We will never. All the economists have already said that if we get a third shutdown, the percentages of those small businesses shutting down completely forever will occur. And right now, they are the pillars of our community. These small mom and pop operations, these small like you know, paint shops, these small eateries, they're the foundation. I mean, you know, you look on Kauai alone, a lot of the big restaurants, they closed up, they shut down, they ain't going to come back. So, you know, it's going to get to a point. Yes, we can enjoy low numbers here on Kauai, for sure, because we're doing things right. But I think for our state to survive, because you know, one day I want to go to Honolulu. I want to go fly see my grandkids. But you know, we gotta lift the travel ban on inner island travel. But you got to do it safe. We already know that workers that get one exemption, they go from Oahu to another island to work. They take the virus with them. You know, so it's not coming from the mainland. It's our own people. So we got to get our own people safe and start going into the mode of thinking safe all the time. Because again, if after 1 hour trip, the lieutenant governor can get sick, anybody can get sick. Plain and simple.
Right.
And it wasn't from no tourists, you know. It wasn't
Yeah, it
from the
wasn't from no tourists. It was
I'm,
just
I'm gonna
from,
read. I'm gonna read Tyson's comment, and I can read it because he posted it. So if you haven't seen it, I just want to read this because this is coming from someone from the visitor industry. It doesn't work at Timbers. It had nothing to do with Timbers. He says they can test me every week. They can stick it in any orifice they need to. Just give me the opportunity to go back to work. Our Hawaii residents that are not following safety guidelines don't care that people are still unemployed. That is from a guy that has been on unemployment for quite a while, worked at a major resort on Kauai, and we've had this discussion because there was a time that I honestly believe when we were running on Kauai and every island that we needed to pump the brakes on the visitors. We didn't know where this thing was coming from. Remember, our first two positives on Kauai were from visitors. Remember that? I'll never forget that.
but they came over sick now. Remember,
Right.
they came from Maui. They
Right.
was already sick, so they stayed in the Marriott one night. Medics called, boom, sent them to a facility.
So I think when you look, and I give Derek credit for trying to be innovative because you cannot wait for the state. We cannot wait for the state. And we got just too many people that are on unemployment, and some have never even gotten a check yet. So we got to think about all of them as well. I trust, and like I mentioned earlier, I think the biggest concern for the people of Kauai was the making sure that the employees were safe, that the employees were not being forced. And I'm not talking to Timbers, I'm talking to
Sure.
every hotel, because come October 15th, hotels are going to start to ramp up their opening. They're gonna have to. That no employee is put in a position where they're forced to be in a place that they're not comfortable, and that's all. I mean, that's just good business, good management, and I think we can get there, and I really do. And I think testing is a important part of that, so that the employee feels that uh, it's just, if you imagine, if you just walking down on any property, any hotel on Kauai, and some guest pops out of the bush, oh my God, excuse me, and you startle, it happens.
Yeah.
That employee now is like, oh my God, did he spit? Did she spit? Did he cough? Did I want to go get tested? Hey boss, can I go get tested? Absolutely. Here, go get this. Take this. Go get a test.
Right.
Just so they have their peace of mind. And I think that's kind of where I'm hitting at. It's just being having our employees be comfortable going to work. And I went to Timbers the other day, a couple of days ago. Totally, just I was with my partner, and he had never been up there, so I took him up. This was way before we even knew about the bubble, and and I was up there, and there was Ed was up there. He had his mask on, and Angela was behind the front desk, the plexiglass and the mask. She never took her mask off, and it just, that's how we got to do it. That's just what we have to do if we want to stay safe. And everybody, as the risk level rises, when more people come, we just got to be more cognizant of that. We just got to be more careful.
Right.
But this virus isn't going to go away, and at some point we gotta start opening up. And Kauai, we have an opportunity to keep the numbers down, and allow, we gotta get our people back to work at some point. Gotta get our people back to work.
Yeah, I mean, that's been the sentiment that I've heard as well from many of our employees is, well, we want to work. We want to work. We want to make sure we're safe, but we want to work. We want to get back to work. We want to stay at work. And so, yeah, I think the testing, figuring out the testing so that it can be available wide and far for anyone who wants it, anytime they want it. Charlie was talking about earlier, really focusing in on the zones where, because I mean, look, let's be real, we're going to get cases, it's going to happen. So, okay, we know now, we have the contract tracing, we know all the people that were in that restaurant where that employee or that guest or wherever that might be, and you can act quickly on that. That's a lot of organization, but that's what we have to do, right? That's the world we're living in today. It's a lot of added protocols. It's a lot of added a time, and yeah, there's some expense to it too. But so what? It's the right thing to do, because people, I believe, the majority of the people who have elected to come out on quarantine, and the majority of the people who will want to come out, can come out with the pre-testing, they want to be safe too. I don't know what the statistics are, but Kauai, at least from my personal experience, I've had 4 check-ins. I'm on day 11 right now, so I've had 4 check-ins. So and I've had a couple phone calls. So it's been pretty diligent. I don't know what the statistics are, but I would venture to bet that the vast majority of people follow the rules versus not follow the rules. And that's what we have to do, right? We have to be diligent. People have to do that. We have to continue to preach that. We have to continue to communicate that to ourselves, to our teams, to our friends, to our family. So I know I'm repeating myself on that, but I don't think you can over communicate in this, because as we've seen, we knew this virus was serious, and the outbreaks in Honolulu and the jumping off the rocks and all those things is people knew, but they elected to ignore that for that moment in time. And as you said with the lieutenant governor, okay, well, we think we're in a safe environment here. Well, we don't know. I mean, even under the quarantine rules, right? I live alone, but if you're coming back and you have a family, you have friends, they're not required to quarantine, right? So you could come back and be infected and give it to your family members or friends, and then they go to work. Fortunately, I don't think that's happened. But there's a lot of variables here that we all just have to really, really ensure that we're doing our part for Kauai. And that's what we're here to do and to support. We really appreciate you guys, bringing these issues out in a good open forum here. I think it's really, really great. We're not all going to agree, but that's okay. We can have constructive conversations. And the mayor and managing director to Helig, and we've been on the phone with and Sue Canoho, I think Thursday, Friday, Monday, Tuesday, trying to figure out the resort bubble, and everyone's working their tails off. Everyone's working their tails off to figure this out. And I want to send a big mahalo to the county, to you guys, to all of the people of Kauai. Thank you for the support. Throughout all of the businesses. I think you said it more eloquently than I did earlier, Charlie. It's like that's the character, right? That's when I think of Kauai. Yes, you have the Napali Coast and Waimea, and it's amazing. But the character of the culture, the mom and pop restaurants, that's what people talk about, right? Yes, they'll have their photos in Napali, but then they're going to have their favorite local restaurants and shops, and we've got to ensure their survival. So let's figure it out.
Yep.
Charles, we went a little bit beyond the 8 o'clock. I apologize for that, Gary. But Charlie, you got any closing comments?
Well, first, I'd like to thank thank our guests. Thank you so much, Gary, for coming on and giving us a concept viewpoint of what the bubble is. And, this is to the viewers out there. I know we're not going to agree on everything. But again, Mel and I, we bring whoever we can that will make some sense of what's happening. And they give, whatever information you can use, fine. What you can't use, you let it go. I'd like to address one issue, though, and I saw something, and it's from a good friend of ours. Yes, if we could bring back agriculture. But, I'm going to tell you this on the West Side. We've had guys try so much. If you want to talk about agriculture to feed an entire community, you better have the money to get the amount of plants you need to put in the ground so you can feed one community. It's not that easy just to say we're going to do agriculture, because we've seen it. I've seen how many people come and try and they bellied up because it's not easy. So when we bring in the big companies, then you got people over here screaming at them because they're using certain pesticides, okay? So if you want to talk about that, and I sound like I'm getting angry right now, but that's what's happening. We go through this vicious cycle. You take the good with the bad. If you want on agriculture, then you know what? These people know how to grow the stuff. Let them grow the stuff. But no interfere with them because you're worrying about pesticides and on GMO and all this other hogwash. But I just saw it tonight. What we're talking about is basically how do we survive this virus, okay? And I'm sorry for going on that rant and rave because I live it. I live it on the West Side. I see it. I see how good companies get targeted, okay? Why do you think we lost sugar already? Why do you think we're barely hanging on? It's not easy. You want to grow food for a community. You make sure you got big bucks so you can grow a lot of food so you can feed a lot of people. Not the kind you just do them as a hobby and you're going to feed 1-2 families. That's not going to work, okay? What we're growing right now to feed, we're feeding from farm to state. We're growing fresh vegetables for the schools to feed our kids. That's what farming is. And we're doing it right now. Okay? I'm sorry, Gary, if I kind of used up your time. It's just
No,
that,
not at all.
Usually I don't get that way, but boy.
I thought I was listening to Mel Raposo for a moment.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, I don't. It's so funny, Charlie, because I must have saw the same comment, and I'm trying to do this in the right way, but I'm a realist. I've always been a realist, and we cannot flip the switch. Do I wish, Gary, and please don't take offense to this, but do I wish we didn't rely so heavily on tourism? Absolutely. I love the
Me too.
highways today. I love the highways right now. But there's there's no switch to flip. There's no switch to flip that, okay, 80, stop that, Charlie. ADC, agribusiness development or whatever, the state's ag, they got acres on this island available for farming. Where's the farmers? There's none because you can't make them, you can't make money. Um, the bottom line is this: today we are talking about right now, September of 2020, where we have this virus that we gotta defeat. We gotta get past this virus.
Yep.
So we got dealt the hand. We don't have a good hand, and we got to do the best we can with the hand that has been dealt. So, while I don't agree with every single thing going on in the state right now, I if I see a plan that makes something safer, I support it. I think the bubble will make things more accountable. They'll have bans on. We'll track them. Is it 100% foolproof? No, nothing is. Nothing is. I think tomorrow, Charlie, we're going to have about 12 viewers on our show tomorrow, but it is what it is. I think let's be real and let's deal with it and let's get our people back to work in a safe way. Now, if this doesn't work, uh, and it's us, it's us that will make it work or not work. I'm talking about us that go to the store and go to. I don't go to Timbers. I don't. I should be up there exercising, but I don't go to Timbers. How many people actually go up there and exercise? You know, now if the employees are not comfortable, then Gary, I think that's something that you guys got to accept and deal with, and make them at least provide a comfortable environment. That's just what I think needs to be done. But um, guys, we all got to work together on this, and we gotta get through it. I pray that the mayor successfully convinces the governor to require a second test. I do.
Yep.
And I said this the other night. If we go on a one test system, and maybe not so much for Kauai, but for Oahu, our numbers will jump. Our numbers, we'll see 300, 400, 500 numbers. We'll have experts come on in the next week that will talk about that. But and then we shut down again. So I hope I'm wrong. I just we all got to do our part. We all got to do our part. Gary, any closing comments, Gary?
No, just thank you guys again for everything you're doing and bringing these issues to the forefront. And yeah, I didn't know how to have my Facebook on without messing up the sound, so I didn't see any of the comments, so I'll go back and look. But yeah, hey, look, we're here. We're very proud members of the community. And yeah, there's a smart balance in there somewhere of tourism, of energy, of industry, that of technology, of things that we need to continue to explore. But for now, yeah, we have, our economy is heavily relying upon tourism. And it's very concerning to most people today. But there are other resort destinations that are handling it. And how are they handling it? How are they managing it? How are they managing it safely in their communities? How are they managing safely for their employees? So those are some of the lessons that we've taken from some of our other properties that are open, in the mountains in Colorado and California and the East Coast, South Carolina, and Florida, where they're open, and where some states are, not so stringent with enforcement. But just because the state doesn't mean that we can't be. And so those are lessons that we've learned. And of course, you have a lot of large resorts here, with Marriott and Hyatt that are living with this right now, with their employees. So we have to have confidence in ourselves to be able to get through this and do it in a smart, safe way. So wear your mask, wash your hands, politely remind people who aren't following rules that they need to. And if we all do that, I believe we can keep this under control. We're gonna get another case, 2, I don't know, it's going to happen. But if every person is diligent, we're gonna make this work. Kauai can make this work. I know we can. So thank you, gentlemen.
Oh, thank you.
Well said. Well said. Somebody just posted, well, gosh, at least so Timbers, we have a month to cater to the Kama'aina for.
We're open. Come join us. Come join us.
You know, I didn't know about the Kama'aina program you had, and I'm not gonna. You call Timbers if you're interested. I'm not.
Yeah, we're not going
to. But I will say that I've talked to a lot of friends that have stayed there, and I mean, I work there. It's a gorgeous place. Give them a call. Take advantage of the Kama'aina special before October.
Come join us, or come walk on the trails, hike on the trails, or join us for dinner or drink. And we've got great musicians out there. Dale Seeger and forget the gentleman he plays with is out there tomorrow night, and it's great. People are enjoying themselves. So it's been great to open the doors to the Kauai Kama'aina, and we intend to keep it going, doing it safely.
Right on. Well, Gary, thank you very much. Viewers, thank you again. I hope we clarified some things. I know a lot of people are not happy. It is what it is. Let's work together on this. And let's if you got any suggestions, hey, send it to me. I'll get it to Gary. I'll get it to the mayor. I'll get it to Mike. Send it to Charlie. He got the same connects. Let's get this thing done together and let's make it work. Tomorrow night it'll be interesting. Tomorrow night we'll deviate a little bit. We're going to have all our guests will be discussing ocean safety. Next week is Ocean Safety Week. So KLA, Kauai Lifeguard Association, and other agencies will be joining us tomorrow night to talk about their events that will be going on for Ocean Safety Week, and that'll be tomorrow night. Sunday night is typically our night off, but if Dr. Dara O'Carroll can make it, he will be on Sunday night. And then next week, excitement. Monday, Tuesday, we have candidate profiles with our county council candidates. Thursday, Friday, Saturday, we got candidate profiles with our county council candidates. And then Wednesday, we have Dr. Alderete, who is a virologist, that's going to be talking about the 1 test, 2 test methods. So anyway, we hope you join us tomorrow. If we offended anybody, we apologize. Please come back. We'll see you guys tomorrow night, guys. We love you guys. God bless. Stay safe. Thanks, Gary.
Mahalo.
Mahalo. Aloha.